Hi there, welcome back. I'm Melissa, this is Chai, and today's video is going to be my plant feature of the month featuring Alocasia Tandurusa. I'm actually a little bit late to this video because we are now in August. He wants down. So I think I'll have another feature at the end of this month, technically for August. So this is July's plant feature, even though you're watching this in August. I started this series at the beginning of the year and I feature a plant each month and I go over its journey with me, its current care, and just kind of give you, the rundown basically of when I got the plant, any struggles. So I'm excited to talk about Alocasia Tandurusa for this month. Thank you so much for watching and I hope you enjoy. You are a needy little kitty. A little Chai ASMR. So here is Alocasia Tandurusa. She's got 4 massive leaves. And I don't even know how to show you this plant in her entirety because she is so big. I'll have to give you some different angles. But I just wanted to show you what she currently looks like right now. She just gave me a new leaf, so she has 4. And here is what the stems look like. I think the stems are one of my favorite things about this Alocasia. It's so cool. And I love the texture of the leaves and the fuzzy little hairs and everything. And I have her in semi-hydro. So that is her again. So Alocasia Tandurusa, also known as Jacqueline, but I believe she's officially reclassified to Tandurusa. I think I'm saying that right. And I got this plant back in January of 23. It was my birthday plant mail for that month. She had like 3 or 4 leaves and I was so excited to get this Alocasia. So she is officially 1.5 years old and it's taken a little bit to get her to be this size and for her to hold on to these like beautiful big leaves. When I initially got this plant, like I normally do, I let plants acclimate for a bit. I think I had her in soil for a little bit, and then I think, a lot of Alocasias when you get them, from like inconsistent watering and care, they put out a new leaf and then they drop an older leaf. That happens a lot. I find it doesn't really happen in semi-hydro because it's getting that consistent moisture that it needs. But when I had a lot of my Alocasias in soil, they tend to do that a lot. And so with this plant, I knew I wanted to move her into pond, or at least I was considering it, because that year was the year that I had issues with a lot of my Alocasias with like fungal issues, and then I reached out and tried pond for the first time that summer. So after I had her in soil for a bit and she was just doing okay, I ended up moving her over to kind of stratum temporarily. And she kind of rehabbed for a bit in stratum. And stratum is basically a aquarium substrate, volcanic soil, and it has lots of nutrients. A lot of plants rehab and root very well in stratum. I use it for propagating all the time. Alocasias, in my experience, really love it, and I grow all my Alocasias, the corms, out in stratum. From stratum, I decided to go ahead and transition this plant to pond semi-hydro later on that summer. And I would say at first she responded really well to pond. I think she put out a new leaf and a couple of her older ones ended up yellowing. And so by the time she was in pond, I think she had like a couple, like 2, 3 new leaves. And then she started going downhill in pond, and I attribute it to not enough nutrients. When I first used pond, I wasn't fertilizing right away because I was using Lechuza brand and it contained fertilizer, but I think this plant, like this Alocasia specifically, it really loves its nutrients. And since pond was still kind of new to me, I was still learning with it and everything. I know so much more about pond now, and I have a whole dedicated video on my pond care and experience. And so once I actually discovered that her water wasn't really containing enough nutrients, I started to feed her more and feed her better. So if you are struggling with this Alocasia, I do recommend that you don't skip on feeding. I replenish her nutrients in here every week. I'm giving her like a fresh thing of nutrients. And since I just upsized her not too long ago, she isn't quite rooted that well in here yet. Like she's rooted, but I can't just like lift her up out of here. because I have her in a self-watering pot. So I have her planted in a pot like this, like an inner pot, and then it sits in a little bit of water. And I actually just watered her yesterday. So she is full of water. At the rate she is growing, I am worried I'm probably gonna have to go up to a 10-inch sooner than later. But when I did repot her, I put her into mostly my DIY. I filled up around with my pond. I found like 6 or 7 corms from this plant, which was kind of cool. So I have them growing right now. But yeah, I figured it would be fun too if maybe we tested her water today, and you can kind of see what her environment is like if you wanted to somewhat mimic what I'm currently growing mine in. I feel like I'm more than happy to share like what her pH is and the roughly amount of nutrients that this plant gets. I did share like my exact nutrient regimen in that pond video, so I don't do anything different for this alocasia specifically. I do feel like she's very thirsty, because I would feel like I filled this water up yesterday and it's already like, it was at the max and now it's down to 3/4 on the meter. So she does drink quite a bit, which is understandable because she's a huge plant, like massive. Her leaves and everything are huge. And yeah, so she currently lives in my plant room. She lives on that back shelf in there. She sits under a 60-watt Mononos, if I'm saying that right, light. And I had her on the opposite end of that shelf, but she got too tall, so I moved her to the lower end. She does get some southern light exposure from that window that's in there, and she seems to love sitting under that light. It is pretty warm in my plant room, so she lives like mid 70s, upper 70s. Humidity right now kind of sucks with the AC running. Humidity is like upper 40s, 50s. I would say average right now is probably right at 50%. And then yeah, like I said, I don't do anything else other than just water her once a week with my nutrient regimen. I do flush my pond out from all that buildup and excess fertilizer and everything. I do give a good flush, usually every 3 weeks, or when I can take time to actually like go through and flush all my pond out. And I clean the inner cache pot, just make sure it's all sanitized. But other than that, like pond is generally like, once you get your regimen good and your routine and everything, it has become so easy for me to water my plants. And like I said, alocasia and a lot of other plants really love that environment, and they've responded so well to pond, and I love it so much. She is beautiful. I love those big leaves. Let's go ahead and test her water just to see what her nutrients are sitting at. I'm actually curious because it has been 24 hours since I did water her, and I'm curious to know what the levels are like. I feel like I don't use my meter as much anymore. I use this one here by Apera Instruments, and you need distilled water as well. This is like a new thing, a distilled. Ugh. I have a little paper towel here. I'm just gonna sit her on this paper towel. So to test the nutrients of your specific plant, the water that's in the reservoir, you need a little bit of that. You need to like dump that out. I have 2 plastic cups. I'm gonna make 1 cup for the water that's in the reservoir. It's a little dirty still. And then we need some distilled water. The distilled is to clean the meter off. Okay, so the distilled is obviously the clean one, and the dirty one is the nutrient water. All right, so let's turn our meter on. If you hear noise, Luna is trying to get outside right now. And we have it on pH. I don't know if you're gonna be able to see that because the screen is so bright. So I have my distilled. I'm just gonna kind of clean the meter. This little ball thing that's in there can't dry out. So all I'm gonna do is stick it in the nutrient water. It's like I might have filled it a little too full. Okay, we're gonna let it sit. And the pH is adjusting here. It'll probably go down in the next couple of days. It'll probably get closer to a 6. And sometimes it can take a couple minutes to fully adjust. So right now we're at a 6.45. I don't know if you can see 6.4 something on there for pH. 6.43, see, it's still adjusting. Now I moved it to conductivity, EC, which is over 1,000. It's reading like 1080, which that just means there's a good amount of nutrients in there. 1098, 1101. So roughly 1100, let's just say that. TDS, total dissolved solids, and this is measured in parts per million. This has usually been around 800 for me, and right now it's just shy of 800. Salinity is at 0.56. And yeah, pH is still reading about a 6.43. So that's her current numbers. Again, like I said, I just put this nutrient water in here yesterday. So we're just gonna clean our meter again. So that's roughly where she's been sitting at. And like I said, she's been pretty happy with that. I'm just gonna pour the nutrient water back in here. And we'll just plop her back in here. Like so. So that is pretty much my story with Alocasia Tandurusa. I love this plant and I'm really happy that she's growing well for me now. I just give it all to pond and just this environment and semi-hydro in general. I just feel like alocasias really love that consistency, that moisture and everything that they get. If you haven't tried pond, I definitely recommend give it a go and see how you like it. I've been a soil, like now I use no soil, but I've been like soil for so long. So when I tried pond a year ago now, I can't go back. I love it. So thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, let me know and I'll talk to you soon.